So, thank you so much. Please help me welcome the debate host for today, Toastmaster Minakshi. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster of the Day, Toastmaster Avinash, for that warm welcome. And how about you take that risk and try it at home once? Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and dear guests. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to this exciting debate match at the Readers and Debaters Toastmaster Club. I'm honored and delighted to be your debate host for the day. Did you know that in the US, the first Friday of March is observed as National Speech and Debate Day? But here at Readers and Debaters Toastmasters Club, we have that every month. So we don't have to wait until March. Debating is one of the fundamental essences on which our club is built. It fosters critical thinking skills. One needs to have the ability to make a well reasoned, well thought out argument, but at the same time, question the evidence behind the opponent's stance. So, before we start today's debate, I would like to throw in some quick facts about debates. The Lincoln Douglas format. This is like an open style of debate, which is named after the famous series of debates between the US Senate candidates, Abraham Lincoln and Stephen Douglas in 1858. So the participants in this format usually agree upon the time limits and the topic well ahead of time. It's a very structured format, and yet it allows for the people to openly express their viewpoints and their rebuttals. So the structure that we are going to follow for today's debate is also the Lincoln Douglas format. Now, every debate needs to have a motion. So, to give out the motion for the day, I would like to quote one of the very powerful sayings by Nelson Mandela. It says, "Education is the most important weapon which can be used to change the world. Education is the process of facilitating learning, acquiring knowledge, skills, values, morals, beliefs, and habits. Educational methods include teaching, training, storytelling, discussing, researching, you name it, and it's there." And to talk about COVID, as we come closer to the second birth anniversary of COVID next month, we know that the last 2 years have impacted us immensely. Various sectors, various businesses, our mental health for that matter has been impacted. But the question is whether the education sector has been negatively impacted by COVID. So that brings us to the motion of the day. COVID has negatively impacted the education sector. So, to bring on to this motion, we have the proposing team consisting of Toastmaster Prathamesh, Toastmaster Nivedita, and Toastmaster Harsh. And saying that, man, no, it's not that negatively impacted. We have the opposing team consisting of Toastmaster Nidhi, Toastmaster Yash, and Toastmaster Kamya. All right, let's get the ball rolling. But before we start on to the first round, I would like to give like a disclaimer. This is like the teacher saying at the beginning of the exam to please not copy, those kind of disclaimers. So you can just listen to it and then leave it out from the other ear. So it's really important for all the participants to keep in mind done our research, and we have all this rush inside us to put forward our points, to attack our opponents. But it's really important for us to keep our points, put it across in a very assertive way, and at the same time, maintain a balance of respect for the opposing team member. All right, so my job as a teacher here comes to an end. And with that being said, let's get the ball rolling with the first round, which is the opening remarks round. This round is for setting the context and the tone of the debate. This round will consist of 3 minutes and followed by a 30-second grace period. So timer, please note, 3 minutes with a 30-second grace period. From the proposing team, we have Toastmaster Prathamesh.
Hi, Meenakshi.
Hi. So just to do a quick audio video check, please repeat after me. I am totally prepped for this debate.
I am totally prepped for this debate.
Thank you. You are audible and visible. Are you able to see the timer cards?
Yes.
All right. Good to go? Yes, go for it.
Hey, Mom. Don't disturb me. I know it's my exam tomorrow, but I am fully prepared. Don't ask me how. I'm prepared. I have the notes from internet. I'll just copy it. Similar to what I did in last year, I'll easily get 90%. Cut to the today's era. Now, this is a story not in for any children, but it's for our college students as well. Online education made our life easy, no, isn't it? No, that's not a true. Just think of an example. Online education is based on that one principle, that the strongest pillar, you need to have online presence, and for that you need infrastructure. You need a good internet connection, you need electricity. Lives are good in cities, but they aren't so in a rural part, and especially the remote part, where the basic infrastructure is still luxury for them. So, attending online lectures, online classes, participating in class creates issue for this. Let's bring on to the second issue. That, for example, if a student like me, who is a class topper, but in the last 2 years, what has happened is I'm getting an average mark. Why should I even study? Because I know before COVID, I used to get 90%, but after COVID, I'm getting just 80%. Why should I study? My efforts are going to get wasted. In contrast, the similar is happening with those who are weak into studies. They were getting marks in the range of 50-60%. They used to motivated for studies, but now they are getting marks easily. They are also not getting study. Let's come to the third point. Education is not just simply means about your studies. It also means about holistic development in terms of creative activities, cultural, extracurricular, and co-curricular activities, coming out and play. It's about a peer learning also. Is it happening right now? No. The students are sitting at home, they are learning, but are they growing? No. Let's bring on to the fourth point, that in terms of assessment, as my example rightly mentioned, that when it comes to student part, it is not getting, it is very easy to copy from some other sources. Whether I'm learning, no. And that's bring us to my final point, that is no personal attention I'm getting from my teachers. Now every student demographics have their different issues, especially the primary students are getting affected a lot, because in earlier days a weaker student could have get a personal attention from the teachers. It helped him into his growth. To summarize my opening arguments, there are infrastructure issues, assessment related issues, holistic development is not happening. Also, the student psychology is getting badly affected. With that, I strongly want to motion that yes, it is getting negatively impact on the education system. Over to you, host.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Prathamesh, for very nicely setting up the tone and the context for your proposing team. So to contradict that, we have from the opposing team, Toastmaster Nidhi. Toastmaster Nidhi, for your audio video check, would you repeat after me? I'm totally prepped for this debate.
I'm totally prepped for this debate.
With some more enthu.
I am totally prepped for this debate.
That's better. All right. Like I said, 3 minutes and 30 seconds grace period. Timer, could you please share the timer cards?
Yes, they are visible. Can you show the transition? Thank you. Yes, it's visible. Thank you.
All right, go for it.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, dear guests, and worthy opponents. We, the opposing team, believe that COVID has not negatively impacted the education sector, and we are here to share our perspective. The history of mankind is testimony to the fact that whenever a large-scale crisis has struck, our immediate reaction is that of panic and a feeling that we are doomed. Yet, it has been these very crises that have catapulted us into eras of multifold growth. Before COVID, had we ever imagined that our children would study anywhere other than in a brick and mortar setting? Aren't our children living and breathing examples of heroes who defeated these lockdowns to continue with their studies? The crisis thus proved to those young minds that even in the face of adversity, the human spirit can rise against all odds. Governments and educators across the world were forced to think out of the box and came out with ways to make materials and education available. Courses that were once only available through offline modes crossed over to become online. Great content has become available for free online and can be used to learn from. Imagine the hyper accessibility that was enabled because of this. According to a report released by Udemy, in April 2020, online courses saw a more than 400% spike in course enrollments for individuals between February and March alone. Business and government use increased by 80%, while instructors created 55 more new courses. With traveling time cut out, students were able to enroll themselves into many more extracurricular classes to enable a more holistic development. Looking at the top line growth figures, technical drawing has seen the biggest overall surge with an increase of, mark my words, 920%, followed by art for kids, 531%, Pilates, 402%, and coding for kids, 375%. Yes, the lockdown brought about disarray in the education system, and we are not here to contest that. But we need to understand that this phase is temporary. And while the negatives will be reversed, as we are already seeing, the positives of the new way of learning will be here to stay. Had it not been for COVID, our archaic teaching systems would have continued. COVID has revolutionized our education system and made it more prepared for the future. As Walt Disney said, the flower that blooms in adversity is the rarest and the most beautiful of all. Thank you, and over to you, debate host.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Nidhi, for very beautifully setting up the tone and the context for your team. We now will move on to the second round, which is the supporting arguments round. This round is full of facts, figures, and strengthening the argument. So without any further ado, let me call upon the member from the proposing team, Toastmaster Nivedita. Toastmaster Nivedita, could you please do an audio video check? I'm totally prepped for this debate.
Totally prepped for this debate.
All right. And for the benefit of everyone, this round is for 2 minutes, followed by a 30-second grace period. So timer, please note 2 minutes and 30-second grace period. Toastmaster Nivedita, are you able to see the timer cards?
Yes.
All right.
Flip it.
Good to.
Thanks.
All right,
So
go for it.
Here we go. Thank you, Prathamesh, and thank you, Nidhi. Let's zoom out from the personal touch to the global scenario. According to the World Bank report, more than 45 countries in Europe and Asia had to stop schools, colleges because of the COVID. And the studies are still ongoing, but what these studies are talking about is there is a tremendous learning loss. And if this is the view for the developed countries, you can easily paint a picture what can be the same thing if we extrapolate that to a country like India. When we say we were totally unprepared, and because of that, the loss multiplied. When we are talking about what is this learning loss, and then the study found out that the inequality increases tremendously. And if this is something, again, I want to tell you, if this is something again for the developed world, what we can do it is difficult to say it in our country. Many girl students had to stop this learning. Teachers have to train themselves. They were not trained about that. Mostly when we are talking about so much available net, there is a lack of internet facilities in this. And the studies also found out that this is happening mainly when there are illiterate or uneducated parents. So the gap widens, and we know we have a big population which sits in the rural areas, uneducated, illiterate people. Though they wanted sincerely the education for their children, they couldn't give it. So the losses or the challenges are manifold, like learning style or cultural challenges, because the system allows us to learn by ourselves. We are not accustomed to learn by ourselves. Then pedagogical e-learning challenges, the learning by recall, memory challenges, all these challenges were there with this particular systems. So what I was thinking, and last is whole thing, what we want to look at it. There are many good programs, midday meals, all those started by the government couldn't continue. So all in all, the challenges or the problems worsen because of the COVID. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Nivedita, for that strong first round of supporting arguments. We have from the opposing team, Toastmaster Yash, to take this forward.
Yes, am I audible and visible?
Yes. Are you fully prepped for this round?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Again, just a reminder, it's 2 minutes followed by 30 seconds of grace period. Are you able to see the timer cards?
Yes.
All right. Good to go?
Yes.
Okay, go for it.
So it's very easy to blame poor infrastructure, poor coverage of electricity and internet. But the fact is that this particular thinking is very old. As of 2015, all villages in India have access to electricity. India has long back achieved 100% electricity coverage. 65 crore people in India have access to smartphones, which means that they have access to internet. Another thing that is often complained about by eternal pessimists is that retention is a big problem. However, the fact is that the access to recordings during the lectures and after the lectures has in fact improved recall. To support this evidence that the government has been very proactive in enabling education, we can take example of numerous state governments who have taken numerous measures. For example, in places where internet connectivity is good, like say Kerala or Maharashtra, the governments came up with YouTube channels where they posted videos so that students could learn from there. And in places where internet connectivity is relatively poor, governments came up with novel methods. For example, the government of Chhattisgarh came up with radio lectures. Another novel method that was used was loudspeaker teaching. That is, people in far-flung areas can hear the loudspeaker and learn from there. The All India Radio conducted so many lectures over radio. The government came up with 34 DTH channels, each channel dedicated to one class to promote learning. And in India, 90 crore people have access to televisions. So all in all, the government was proactive, and this new infrastructure setup will help us after the COVID pandemic also. And that is why we say that the negatives will go away and the positives will stay with us for posterity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Yash. That brings us to the end of the second round, that is the supporting arguments round. I'm very excited to bring about the next round, which I would like to call as supporting arguments round number 2, part B, if you must say. In this round, it's again based on facts, figures, and statistics, but you also get to counter the argument made by the other team in the previous rounds. This round is open to both the speaker 1 and 2 from either of the teams. If you would love to tell me who would come up from the proposing team, either
I'll come.
Toastmaster Prathamesh or Toastmaster Nivedita.
I'll come.
Okay. This round is also for 2 minutes, followed by 30 seconds of grace period. Timer, please note. Timer, if you could just display the timer cards. All right. Toastmaster Nivedita, good to go? You're on mute.
Yes.
Okay, go for it.
Thank you for all the details shared by you from the efforts done by government, and we respect that. The main concern or the challenge here, as I mentioned, is we were not prepared. It happened so abruptly. We are not used to such type of learnings, and we have ample of stories how we have reacted or how students have responded. I heard many stories about students who didn't attend the class. They have false naming system. Those teachers were sincerely, genuinely trying to make it as real-time experience or as a face-to-face experience. It couldn't happen. So in a way, those systems were made, attempts were made, it didn't help. That requires altogether different type of training, different type of learning. So we need them to inculcate that this is the way of learning, because we know how the things happen in this era. I heard my friend's daughter has given her ID and password to a friend and she was enjoying the holidays. So, and with this, we all know the way results are happen. Though there was those who prepared throughout, they got good marks. Those who prepared only for the 10th, their marks went for haywire. So when that seriousness of education or whatever done by the government, that understanding was not built to these systems, and we as a parents were also equally responsible. Even parents were not prepared to how to cope up with the studies for the students in this case. Though we were saying there were n number of opportunities and internet facilities were given, my colleagues in office struggled a lot to make it possible for their students when there are exams. So in a way, those whatever has done is fantastic, but it didn't happen, and that has not only the physical but the psychological impact on student, teachers, and there are n number of incidences happen which we are aware about. And that's what we felt. This COVID has given us that direction that we need to prepare every day. It's not only during the calamities, but every day, and our plan B should be ready. Over to you, debate master.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Nivedita. So similarly for the opposing team, either of Toastmaster Nidhi or Toastmaster Yash can participate in this round. So who would want to come forward?
Yeah, I would be coming.
Okay. Toastmaster Yash, again, 2 minutes followed by 30-second grace period. Over to you.
Sure. So I'll begin with the introduction speech that was given by the proposing team, in which one of the things that was mentioned was that a topper suddenly became an average student and an average student became a topper. Now, whose fault is it? Is it the fault of the student, or is the fault because of the pandemic? If average students can put in the efforts and become toppers, where is the fault with COVID, right? Now, another thing that was pointed out was that extracurricular activities suffer. Now, Toastmasters itself is a good example that extracurricular activities and capabilities like public speaking and leadership can still be developed online. There is no halt to it. When it comes to personalized attention, we all are aware of apps like Byju's, Vedantu, which offer personalized apps, personalized courses where your learning speed is adapted to by the app, and it takes care of the concepts which you are not learning, and it reinforces learning. Another thing that was pointed out by the proposing team was that was an example of ID and password given to a friend. Now, even before COVID, students who wanted to bunk classes were bunking classes. Now, COVID is not the cause for students bunking classes. Someone who wants to bunk classes will bunk classes. Someone who wants to learn will learn. So COVID is not the reason for that. And as far as the overall argument of the proposing team is concerned, it is completely anecdotal. There were no facts presented by the proposing team. It is just that my friend did this, my relative did that. Those sample sizes are too small to form a conclusive evidence. And the evidence given by us of various state governments, not just one or two, but more than 15 state governments launching different programs and even the central government backing them up. Those are hard facts which have reached out to crores of people and created a sustainable alternative to disruption of physical classes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Yash. And that brings us to the end of the supporting arguments, both the rounds. Things are starting to heat up a little. And so let's bring the next round in. That is the concluding remarks. So just a reminder for the speakers speaking in the concluding remarks, no new points will be introduced in this round. It will be just a summary of whatever has been spoken till now. For that, we have from the proposing team, Toastmaster Harsh. And this round again would be consisting of 2 minutes followed by 30 seconds grace. Toastmaster Harsh, how excited are you for this round?
Yeah, I'm very excited.
But your expression doesn't say so.
Maybe my answer would be.
Okay. Are you able to see the timer cards? You are audible and visible.
Right.
All right. Good to go. 2 minutes followed by 30 seconds of grace.
Thank you, debate host. My opposition team very well articulated the reaction of human civilization in the crisis. But I want to highlight that reaction is not suitable to solve any problem. Response does. In the concluding statement, I request my opposition team to increase their horizon and think what is sustainable in long term. Every student is unique. He or she has unique personality, traits, interests, preferences, strengths, and weaknesses. The educational curriculum must be able to help every child find his or her unique place in the world in alignment with the uniqueness that he or she has. In order to achieve all this holistic development, a confined 20 by 20 room is not sufficient for all the overall development, even with the state-of-the-art technology. Remote learning is a very nice idea, but we should not confuse a temporary abnormal with a new normal. Plus, the cost that we are bearing, putting all these on stake, is much higher than the cost that we pay in monetary terms and have an everlasting effect. I just need to ask one question. As a parent, what will make you happy? Your child equipped with world-class technology, isolated, or your child learning and growing with the other beautiful minds emerging from different places, elated? Back to you, debate host.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Harsh. From the opposing team, we have Toastmaster Kamya, who will be giving the concluding remarks. Toastmaster Kamya, I see you smiling broad ear to ear. Can you do an audio video check? How excited are you?
I am really excited. Thank you so much.
All right. Are you able to see the timer cards?
Yes, I can see the timer cards. It's widescreen.
Okay. 2 minutes followed by 30 seconds of grace. Over to you. Good to go.
Thank you so much and good evening, everyone. Marvin Minsky once said, "You don't understand anything until you learn it more than one way." And COVID was a perfect opportunity in the form of a challenge to learn and to find out problems, to find out solutions. Now, human spirits can rise in all odds and we can fight because we have the power to fight. And that is the positivity which we have to keep. Problems came, but this is life, and we will face problems, not only in terms of our personal, but on a big scale. But we can't walk down, we have to fight. Now, the problems were facilities in rural areas are not very opened up. Then we are not getting marks easily, which the proposing team said. Then we don't have the holistic development. Peer learning is not there. No personal attention on students, and student psychology is getting affected. But every problem has a solution, and we don't just get it, we have to find out. And the solution is there. We got online platforms, we got so many adepts who worked together to come up with solutions. Pandemic was one of the solution, and it is just a temporary phase. We will pass through it. Now we got solutions, we got problems, and now we just need to work on our spirits. We just need to work on the psychology of ourselves to be stronger, because this pandemic, this COVID is a challenge. I agree, it is a problem, but a problem has a solution, and we have it. We just have to explore it. So thank you so much, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Kamya. And that brings us to the end of the concluding remarks round. It's now time to launch the first poll for this debate. Audience, in fact, it's open to everybody who's present here. So please do vote. Has everyone voted?
We still have 3 more who haven't voted. We'll wait for 5 seconds.
Okay.
And we have ended it.
All right. If you feel that your team has done enough to win today's debate, let me remind you, please don't count your chickens before they hatch, because it's now time for the rebuttals round. This is the round where the tables can turn 180 degrees. So for the rebuttals round, we will have some member from the audience to ask one question each to the proposing team and the opposing team. So you can raise your hand and I will point out to the audience member to ask your question. And this round is open to anybody. So anybody from the either of the side can come and answer. The question, you can ask it within 30 seconds and you will have 90 seconds to answer. So first we will start with the opposing team. So any member from the audience, if you would like to raise your hand and ask a question to the opposing team.
I would go.
No, member from the audience to be asking to you. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Anybody, come on. Toastmaster Abhinav, I see you smiling. So I believe you have a question.
Yeah, so I have to
what
ask.
What were you expecting me to read your expression? All right, you have 30 seconds to ask your question for the opposing team. Go for it.
So my question to the opposing team is, the education sector, you are saying that it has not negatively impacted, but all the schools are closed. And all the fees which kids used to pay to the school, that is not happening. So how are you saying? I think a lot of fees has moved from physical to online, but I think the sector has been impacted.
All right, who would like to answer that from the opposing team? Okay, Toastmaster Yash, I see you raised your hand. So you have 90 seconds. Go for it.
Okay, yeah, the schools are definitely closed, no doubts about that. But has learning stopped? That is the question. Because education is not about accessing and going inside the gates of the school. It's about accessing your teachers. And access to teachers can either be physical or be virtual, which has been happening in the last 1.5, 2 odd years. So that is what has actually happened in the last 1.5 years, that we have found new methods to access our teachers during lectures and even after lectures. One example which I can give you is that the government of Rajasthan, they created 20,000 WhatsApp groups so that each and every teacher has access to his or her students, and students can approach the teacher not only during the lecture but also after the lecture. Now, during the time when you and I were in school, did we have access to teachers after school? That is what the change is. And that is where the pandemic has helped us find new opportunities. And not only that, the pandemic has also made counselors more accessible. The central government set up a toll-free helpline to help people facing mental trauma, especially children, so that they are able to access counselors and mental health experts, so that the stress which is coming out of this change can also be dealt with very effectively. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any member from the audience who would like to ask a question to the proposing team? Okay, we have Toastmaster Rajveer who has raised his hand.
Yeah, can I ask?
Yes.
Okay. So my question to the proposing team is, if you look at last 5 years of history, human history, the way we have progressed, I mean, the significant advancement, similarly, it is inevitable that eventually we'll get into things like artificial intelligence. So there's no escaping from the digital era. So in this backdrop, what is your stance? Like, if we compare the long-term benefit of the COVID, the push, the digital push which it has provided, how do you see that as a,
Okay. Thank you for the question, Toastmaster Rajveer. Who from the proposing team would like to answer that?
Meenakshi, it's me, Prathamesh.
Okay. Toastmaster Prathamesh, you have 90 seconds. Go for it. Timer, please note 90 seconds so you can show the red card when the 90 seconds are done.
Thank you. Thank you, host. Now, remember those days when parents used to call that, come on, go ahead, don't go with the mobile phone, to focus on your books. And now it's exactly a paradox where the learning itself is happening on the mobile phone. It actually creates a disadvantage. Now, any parents would not like their children who are sitting in front of mobile phone or even in a laptop for more than 8-10 hours at such an early stage, because it creates an addiction. Second thing is about a learning. Yes, learning technology, be it artificial intelligence, be it cloud computing, some coding kind of, yes, it is definitely required for their future growth. But this is not the right point. Those who are the college going students, they have a good maturity, they have the good ability to grasp the things at a faster pace. But definitely in the earlier stage, giving excessive technology to them for learning is not a right way to have. Now, learning about the mobile phones and softwares, it can happen if we are using it for for a week or so. It is easy to learn. There is no rocket science in that. But definitely giving them for excessive technology early stage, not at all advisable. The second point which you talk about, a long-term aspect. Long-term aspect is that this has been following for the last 2 years, and now the student psychology has been impacted. We need to counsel our students that no, this is not a way. There are other ways. Read books and get yourself developed. Thank you.
Thank you. And that brings us to the end of the rebuttals round. It was totally nerve-wracking with so many hits and misses from both the sides. I would like to close this forum by thanking all of the participants for this wonderful debate. And I would also like to thank the audience for being the voters. So it's now time to launch the second poll. And this is the final poll for this debate. Please do vote. Their fate lies in your hands.